I don't want the concept of me having to trust anybody within the organization, including myself. So every time I walk in and out of the factory, I get checked. Why? Because along with me, I want everybody else to be checked as well. So I don't want any exceptions to the rule. I want to take the element of trust out of the system, where jewelry industry, everybody says, hey, trust me chal rahe, hum log trust me chal rahe. It's a very simple example. At that particular point, we were doing some extremely large volumes, and everything, all the gold was melted through a regular manual furnace. And in GI, they were using a normal electric furnace, nothing fancy, just a regular normal electric furnace. And then the process of getting to melt the gold from the manual to the electric was a mammoth, because just the mindset. So I ran that at the age of 20 for 3 years, and it didn't do so well for me. And I realized that I had to close it down at one particular point. So I think closing the store down was sort of degrowth, actually, wasn't growth. But the fact that I closed it down at the right time was one of the best decisions I've taken in my life, basically. Most of us in our businesses are doing our day-to-day jobs without having a thought of where we want to be next, where we are going, how we want to do it, when are we going to achieve it. And there are so many questions you're so scared to answer that you stop asking those questions. No one's setting their destination. Everybody's on a journey. Nobody knows where they want to get to.
I'll begin right away. And my first question to you, Avinash, is, see, we all recognize the impact that early experiences have, on our future endeavors. I mean, it goes without saying. And, you joined the family business at a very young age. So I want to know, how did your early exposure to the gem and jewelry industry shape the way that you perceive and approach the business today?
That makes it so much easier once you do that right at the beginning. Shiv, thank you again for being here and bringing me onto this platform. It's an honor. It feels great to connect with so many people at one time. Back to your question, you said how I got into the business at a very, very early age. And I know a lot of other people who are in the jewelry industry who got into the business at an early age. I got into work the next day after my 10th standard board exams. So finished my board exams, next day at work in the store. And it was quite overwhelming, because you're at school and the other end is saying, nahi, aap customer ko maal bechna hai, isko seekho sabse pehle to. So I was in the retail store and started at the front end and had to look at the back end and see what's happening over there. So it was like being thrown into the ocean or into the pool to learn to swim. And I think that was really, at that young age, I was like a fish in water. It was so easy. I blended in so easily. The customers were very okay dealing with me. My staff was very, accommodating and teaching, because you're so young. Everything was so simple. I think that's what makes it a lot easier. When you're young, you absorb things a lot quicker, and that kind of gives you a little bit of an advantage. I mean, now the kids are studying and then studying and then studying, and then probably at the age of 25, they enter the business world. So I had a 10 years heads up, so to say. So I think that kind of changes the whole way things are going up ahead. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Heads up and a good hands-on experience right at the beginning. I want to talk a little bit about your education. And, we often find that formal education has a lasting imprint on our careers. And reflecting on your journey, Avinash, if you could talk a little bit about the formal education that you did with GIA, which is the graduate jeweler, and how it has influenced your career. And maybe you can also talk a little bit, looking back at your fond memories, how was the experience of the campus?
Okay. So like I said, I was 15 when I started work. I started the retail store and I said, I need to see what's out there. So I joined Intergold for a short stint. I was there for about 6 months or so. I met a lot of people. I understood how they're doing things. And at that point, I heard the name GIA and some people were talking about it. And I went back, researched, and I said, listen, I think I kind of need to do this. Told my parents, and it was a little bit of a resistance के क्या ज़रूरत है सब कुछ तो यहाँ पे हम लोग कर रहे हैं तुम उधर जाके क्या सीखेगा what is it they know that we don't know already, and the fear that America जाएगा तो वापस नहीं आएगा, that sort of a thing. If you're talking about 35 years ago, right? So anyways, convinced them. In 1994 I went there, and it was LA for the first time, life-changing. People from all over the world, small community. And Santa Monica was a small building, if you remember. It's just one building. And my God, it was overwhelming to another level. We learned so many different things, and in a total different way. The environment was so different. It was so they made everything really easy because they were teaching us how to manufacture jewelry, which I already had previous experience from my traditional factory. But everything was done in a different fashion. So, and every day I would, try to take back as to how we were doing it over there and as compared to how we are doing it in the US, in LA, NGI. So there was a lot of back and forth between my mind as to the traditional system. Is that the right way to go? Or maybe what these guys are doing, they probably know something better than what we already do. So yeah, that kind of changed a lot in my head.
Yeah, and how was the campus experience?
It is fantastic. It was great. I was living close by. I could drive into work. The campus was fantastic. Small building, very clean, very, very nice, very efficient. And yeah, it was a small classroom. We were, I think, 16 odd people in the class at that time. So, and I think, yeah, I was pretty impressed with the way the whole thing was going. And I think it was not a very long day. It would start at 9 and get over by 3. So that is pretty good. After that, I had some free time. So in LA at that time. So
Yeah,
happened, yeah.
fantastic. Well, I'm going to shift the gaze a little bit, Avinash, and I want to ask you from the perspective that uh, you touched upon it a little bit, which is the dilemma of the traditional jewelry manufacturing, whereas the new things that you were learning at LA, um, you know, family run businesses, have their unique dynamics. So I want to hear from your perspective. What do you see as the distinct advantages and challenges of operating within a family-run jewelry business, especially as the transition happens? And in your case, the transition is kind of two ways, which one is the generation transition, and the other is
So
the transition which is from traditional to modern techniques.
So when I came back from GI and I talked to my family guys, okay, this is what we did over there and this is what we're doing over here and they're not right or we need to change this concept. It was a lot of resistance. It was like, तुम अमेरिका काम अमेरिका में ही रहने दो तो यहाँ पे करने को दिखाएगा तो जो काम हम लोग को आता है वो भी हम भूल जाएगा. That is the typical lineup, It is a very simple example. At that particular point, we were doing some extremely large volumes and everything, all the gold was melted through a regular manual furnace. And in GI, they were using a normal electric furnace, nothing fancy, just a regular normal electric furnace. And then the process of getting to melt the gold from the manual to the electric was a mammoth because just the mindset. On one hand, the challenge was to move, but since joint family was there, if one person wasn't agreeing, I could talk to the other guy and say, I need this. Let me, help me procure this. And so those are the family dynamics of a joint family, and that's how it's always going to be. Where there are advantages and pulls and pushes and so forth and so on. And everything that you want to do, they say, we've already done this. ये तो हमने किया हुआ है. तुमको कुछ मालूम नहीं है. इसको रहने दो. This is the standard reply from most of the people in the family was, been there, done that. Shut up.
I'm sure many of the audience who have a family background in the gem and jewelry industry might resonate with that, either because they might have
I'm
experienced.
telling you for a fact, Shiv, let me cut you. They 100%, each one of them have gone through the same challenge. I'm telling you, they need to keep on pushing. You need to keep bulldozing because it's difficult for people to change, people to accept new things. They're so happy and so comfortable doing things in their own way because it's proven, right? So they don't want to take the risk, and our business is so risk averse. कि risk नहीं लेने का है, शांति से जो काम हो रहा है वो चुपचाप वो करो. So yes, you have to try new things. You have to push all the way forward, and that's the only way that's going to take us to the next level. And Shiv, sorry,
Yeah, continue.
you kids, you guys are. We are going to make mistakes along the way, and there will be times where your parents or your uncles and your chachas and your chachis will prove you wrong. But that's okay. How many times can they possibly prove you wrong? Once, twice, thrice. Out of 10 times, 8 times you'll be right, and 2 times you can be wrong. It's allowed. Allowed है. मतलब इतना तो ratio है यार.
Yeah, those are some wise words. Thank you, Avinash, for that. Now, moving on to the next question. So, while I was learning about you and Oro, I understood that after you came back from GI completing the course, there was a particular growth that the company went through. And expanding a business is, no small feat. So could you talk us a little bit through the growth phase that you as the business witnessed, and maybe share some valuable insights into the challenges that you encountered, especially since you were not just growing within India, you also, established a factory in Dubai. So, talk us a little bit through that.
But before that, so right after I came back from GIA, we went through a family separation. There were five brothers, everybody split. And I went to GI to learn how to manufacture jewelry. And we came and started a retail store. So I ran that at the age of 20 for 3 years, and it didn't do so well for me. And I realized that I had to close it down at one particular point. So I think closing the store down was sort of degrowth, actually, wasn't growth. But the fact that I closed it down at the right time was one of the best decisions I've taken in my life, basically. If I would have held on to that store with my dear life and saying, "Ke log kya kahenge, dukaan band kar diya," which is the talk at that particular time. And again, Shiv, this is a blast from the past. You're taking me back 30 years in time. Quite emotional, man. So we had to shut the store down, and then I said, "Listen, I am passionate about making jewelry. I've learned how to make jewelry the international way, and that's what I want to do." So that's when I started the whole factory all over again. This is 97. And then from there, we built it all the way ground up, took it up to multiple levels in 2000. And 10, we started our factory in Dubai. So that is, again, we're pushing back forward many, many years. What I'm trying to say is that there was degrowth, not growth, right after my GIA, because I studied something else and I was trying to do something else. So there was, and my passion was somewhere else and I was doing something else. So you have to follow your passion. Yeah. I mean, and money's going to follow automatically.
Yeah, fantastic. I think the story here is pretty evident, which is that you realize that, one, manufacturing is your calling, it's your passion. You started off with retail, but, you realize that this is something that is not working at a certain point of time, and you made that necessary call to move on. And yeah, of course, things have been, as they say, things have been very, very different from that decision point onwards. I want to touch upon another education opportunity that knocked your doors, which was the Oro Precious Management program that you did at Harvard Business School. And this is the original OG Harvard Business School, not GIA, which is also referred to as the Harvard or Gems in Jewelry. Now, I want to ask you, Avinash, which is it, how did this experience, shape your leadership style? And I want to focus a little bit on the leadership style because, after that degrowth, there was a significant phase of growth that you witnessed. And, just to cap it off, you had the OPM. And, how did that shape your leadership style? And especially because even continuing today, you are overseeing a very manufacturing operational centric international operations.
So the reason, so I did my 12th, and after that I did my GIA because I said it's going to be graduate jeweler. So I said graduation ka degree to chahiye, and I couldn't do the history geography. So I couldn't do my 13th, 14th, 15th. So I said every time anybody asks me anything, I said I'm a graduate jeweler. Okay, so that. But then later in life, in 2015, I said, listen, I think I need some formal education because we know how to do business, but there are a lot of the softer skills that we're missing. So I went to the HBS page online and I signed up for it. It took me about under 30 minutes to sign up for it. And I didn't think I was going to get in. So I signed up, everything was fine. And within 6 months, I got a message that I've been admitted. And that was quite a shocker for me. I needed to do it, Shiv, because I needed some sort of formal structuring, education. And the HBS program wasn't like a system where they were grading you for it wasn't like your typical exam system. They said that that we are already successful in our businesses and our lives. And we don't need to be graded or, so to say, given test exams. So the whole model was case studies. We studied everything from operations to management to marketing to negotiations to finance to marketing, every possible thing under the sun. And it was on steroids. Everything was really quick. Everything was very fast. The case studies were top notch. And every case study, you would take home something. So there were so many learnings. And the networking was also to another level. Because you're meeting, this is a class of about 160 people, all top-notch people from from all over the country, from different industries, not specifically from the jewelry industry. In fact, there was just maybe one or two from the jewelry industry. So you're getting different perspectives from different manufacturers, different industries, so to say. That kind of sets your brain into thinking how to really strategize and how to think about where your business needs to be. Because usually we are working on a call to action mode. Ye karna hai, ye karna hai, ye karna hai. Nobody stops and thinks, what do we really want to do tomorrow, day after, and the years after that. So that is that is a really big game changer for me.
Well, thank you. I just want, Avinash, if you can maybe elaborate a little bit on, the strategizing bit.
Yeah, that's one thing that's a really good question. I didn't even know the meaning of strategy before I went to HPS. The concept of strategy didn't क्या strategize क्या करेगा, सब कुछ तो है, सब कुछ तो इधर है. So I think most of us in our businesses are doing our day-to-day jobs without having a thought of where we want to be next, where we are going, how we want to do it, when are we going to achieve it. And there are so many questions you're so scared to answer that you stop asking those questions. No one's setting their destination. Everybody's on a journey. Nobody knows where they want to get to. Nobody knows how they want to get there. So सबसे पहले destination set नहीं किया, कैसे जाना है, कहाँ जाना है. That's all strategy. I mean, just go to YouTube and type how to strategize your business. And it's so simple, but we just never wanted to even think about strategizing. We don't want to stop back and think. So every now and then, just stop doing what you're doing, take a step back, think why you're doing what you're doing and how you're going to do it better. And where do you want to be in the next 1 year? So the short term, medium term, and long term. So the short term would be maybe 3 months or 6 months. The medium term could be 1 year, and the long term could be 5 years. But that's different for everybody. And that's not only just for the business, even for your personal or your family life. You need to have your goals and strategize your goals, basically. So strategy is one of the most important aspects of any business.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about technology. Well, not so much about technology, but let me put it this way. So, of course, over the years, over decades, technology has, kind of become the heartbeat of every business operation. And yet, having, so we also need to have best-in-class systems and processes that draw on the power of technology that is there, and that can have a huge impact. So, Avinash, if you could talk a little bit about one such process that you have in place on the shop floor, throughout the facility, that helps improve on the operational efficiencies.
As a company, Oro, as a company, we're a hardcore tech company. When I'm saying tech, it doesn't mean IT and doesn't have to have computers and softwares. We think that we're an engineering company that manufactures jewelry. We have because to manufacture everything you can't do a lot of handmade jewelry. It's not possible. There is I'll give you an example. If I'm buying a machine worth maybe 5 crores, I need to break it down into the last minute as to what is this cost of this machine per minute, so to say, and how many years is it going to service me, and what's the output is going to give me. So for that you require tech to kind of crunch those numbers, because a lot of people are not even crunching numbers. Then
also maybe in terms of overall systems and processes that you have, which has helped increase the overall efficiencies, productivity, overall that has probably worked for you so far.
I'll explain to you. Our systems and structures are extremely strong and extremely rigid, because we have a system within the factory where we do not want to rely on trusting anybody. I don't want the concept of me having to trust anybody within the organization, including myself. So every time I walk in and out of the factory, I get checked. Why? Because along with me, I want everybody else to be checked as well. So I don't want any exceptions to the rule. I want to take the element of trust out of the system, where jewelry industry, everybody says, hey, trust me chal rahe, hum log trust me chal rahe. If you work on trust, you're going to get screwed over one day. ठीक है, सब बच्चे लोग हैं यहाँ पे, allowed है. You're gonna get hit, whether you like it or not. It's gonna take you this. So you need to make your systems and structures so strong that you don't need to trust anybody within the system. Everything has to have a check and a self-check, back to back, so to say.
That's very interesting how you put it. I mean, you used a very commonly used phrase, which is trust, in the gem and jewelry industry, and give it a completely different spin, which is that There are processes, there are systems in place which give results and give consistent results, and that's why you don't need to trust. And that's a very interesting take. Uh, I want to focus a little bit on talent, and uh, when we spoke before, Avinash, you mentioned that designing is something which is key to the jewelry manufacturing process. So we keep talking to the industry experts when it comes to jewelry design talent that is available, and we hear opposing views. Some say there's a dearth of talent, and some say that there's a good enough size of talent pool that's available. And what are your views on this? And perhaps maybe you could also talk about in organizations like yours, how do you retain talent?
Uh, okay, so first things, we're jewelry, right? Guys, we have to be designed first. We are always thinking about manufacturing efficiencies, trust, no trust, uh, payments. But I think you keep everything else aside without design, everything else just crashes. So as a company, we're thinking design first now. We've got a whole bunch of designers and we've given them really nice, very comfortable desks and very nice, airy, light work area, basically. So their creative juices can flow, so to say. Once you give them that and the creative freedom, they don't leave. That's for the designers. And we have to give them a lot of credit, a lot of respect. उसके बगैर तो कोई रहने वाला है नहीं. Good designers are hard to find and even harder to maintain, and as not maintain, even harder to hold on to. So they need to be constantly challenged with their sensibilities, their ideas, and because it gets boring. These guys are creative. These guys are a little off the usual mindset. I mean, we are on the more logical side. So you need to keep on maybe pushing them in the right way, not too much, just a little bit. Other than that, so think design first, number one. Number two, don't hold back on getting the right number of designers. If you need one, please get three, because one's got to leave. You'll end up with two. Again, I'll repeat, if you want one, please get three. You'll lose one, you'll end up with two. Then as soon as you lose the other one, get another one. Other than that, for people usually leave organizations is because the person that they're reporting to. It's not because a person, when he leaves me, he doesn't leave the organization because he doesn't like me. He doesn't report to me or deal with me on a day-to-day basis. He usually leaves because the person he's reporting to is not treating him right or not managing him in the right way. So usually you have to build really strong leaders so that your team, your workers don't leave, basically. If your leader is off track or pushing too hard or pushing not enough or not speaking with enough respect, you're going to lose your people. So I think the number one is get damn strong leaders, and number two is make sure the leaders are respecting their team members. So it's a culture thing through and through.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and that's basically is setting the right culture where respect is the core value that you want to promote, and to a large extent, I would believe the way you've conducted yourself, Avinash, I can say that it's very top down. I mean, you lead by example. Right. So I want to ask you another interesting question. I hope it is interesting because I hope the response I get will be something that the listeners can cherish. And
अरे आप मेरे को क्वेश्चन पूछने से पहले ही डरा रहे हो यार.
Avinash, can you share a specific accomplishment or milestone in your career that you believe will be remembered as a significant part of your legacy? Let's say, suppose if a book is being written about you, and if there is an interesting turning point in your life that you would want to dedicate a chapter to, what would that be?
This a massive turning point is where you understand and open. It sounds really simple. Hold on. When you understand and open up your bottlenecks, most people have business and have and are not being able to conduct that business. Most people have the right recipe, but they're not being able to replicate it over and over again. I'll give you my example. We were in the old factory until 2 years ago, and we moved to a new factory. So the new factory was made about 5x, 6x times larger than the old factory. It was planned in 2016 during my stint in Harvard, because when I set out to make my roadmap, so to say, in the long term, I realized that I'm I'm cutting myself short because I'm not being able to produce as much as I need to produce. So I set up my goal. I looked for the right amount of land, and I bought twice as what I needed. I built a factory of much more than I required. I created infrastructure much more than I needed. And I said, I'm going to make a highway. Okay, I'm going to make a highway, and so that I can drive my car as fast as I can. But I could buy a really good car and not have enough roads to drive on, and then there's no point of a good car. So I have all the learning, I have all the knowledge, I have the right product, but if I don't have the road to drive it, how am I going to do it? And that's exactly like about so you take example of the Bombay City roads. You could have the nicest car, you just don't have the place to go at it. And the same nice car that you have in Dubai, you could really drive it, you could really enjoy it. Roads are nice and smooth, so you can get to places in a much short period of time. So we said that we are going to create this really massive and large infrastructure, and everything else is automatically going to happen. And I think that is one thing that really changed the course of my entire career, so to say. So to answer you again, Shiv, don't hold back on your dreams. Make sure your strategy and your structure is right. Once you have that right, people will not agree to what you say. They say, "Pagal ho gaya, iska dimag kharab ho gaya, isko malum nahi kya kare." But if you have enough conviction and you know what you're doing, go for it.
Oh, wow. That was a lot to unpack, honestly.
मैं ऐसे ही कॉफी नहीं पी रहा हूँ.
But जितना expect किया था उससे बहुत ज़्यादा deliver हुआ. Thank you so much. I also maybe set it up a little bit. But thank you so much. There was again a lot to unpack, and really great advice.
So yes, there is one. I'll directly go to the question from Tilak, who's asking, hi Avinash, would you like to talk about current stage of your product distribution and partnerships with other brands, and its future plans? He does have a following question also, but maybe I'll ask that later.
What is the current stage of my product distribution? So we manufacture and supply to over to 3,000 doors in the country. 50% of the products go to the large corporates and 50% go to the mom and pop stores. The mom and pop stores typically go through a distribution a pattern basically, where we supply to distributors who supply to the stores basically. This is the way it's going to be. I don't think the model is going to change much. It's going to be 50% to the distributors and 50% to the corporates directly. I think that's how it should remain for the near future. Because in fact, this morning only I was at another meeting, and they were asking me what is the future of the regular retailer as compared to the corporates, because the corporates are gaining so much ground. I said they both have their own expertise, and they both are here to stay. And he was asking me how so. So I said the corporate jeweler is sitting much prettier, much fatter, with a lot of inventory, with very low debt, with probably no rent, with very low costs as compared to the corporate. And the corporate is everything else: leaner stock, high costs, high debt, expensive staff. So it's kind of all, everybody has their own niche, and they're putting this together pretty well, you know. So I think everybody's here to stay, and this is how the industry is going to remain for the near future.
Very insightful. Thank you so much, Avinash. His follow-up question is also about, can you also talk about equipment sourcing, logistics, etc.?
For equipment, we sourcing machines from all over the world. You can't just limit yourself to one country, because through EPCG we can get any machine from any part of the world without paying any duty. So it's you have to make sure that you're exploring the entire world out there. Logistics has become really easy through SQL and BVC. It's so cheap. It's one of the cheapest in the world for that matter. So you can send your goods anywhere into the country, and it gets delivered overnight. So that's the best way to move your goods around.
Great. That's really helpful. That's some wonderful piece of advice. We have another question from Arpita, who's asking, what advice would you suggest to the jeweler who are just starting off?
Starting up jewelers, you make sure you're extremely lean. Don't hold on to a lot of stock. If you know that something's not moving, melt it as soon as you can. That's make sure your systems are extremely robust. Don't rely on trust, Shiv, please. Because I know why people say I trust the sky. You don't need to trust nobody. Make sure your systems are super strong. Make sure you have a really good online app and presence. Apps are not expensive anymore at all. You spend a lot of money on your sales staff. They are the front end of what you're selling. So don't stinge on that. Make sure you have a good, strong incentive program for them. I think that's pretty much it. I'm a manufacturing guy. Retail is not my forte, but I definitely do it in this particular fashion.
That's wonderful advice, talking about budgeting and an eye on the demand, supply, the budgeting bit of it, the stock procurement, etc. Wonderful. The next question is from Swati, who's asking, does health play a vital role in your way of conducting business?
So I've had a massive health journey actually, from I would call it literally zero to hero sort of a situation. I was looking at a photo of mine from 15, 20 years ago with a big fat stomach, and I couldn't believe that this is me. If your health is right and your mind is clear, your intuition works better, your gut works better, your decisions are automatically a lot more right than wrong. So I'm at 50. I feel like I'm at 30. I feel great, and I think the health factor is a huge factor for me to be where I am financially also.
Absolutely. I'm sure health is very important, prime importance. Right. So we have again something from Tilak, who says you're correct. Corporate P&L is shrinking. But what are the challenges you're facing working with mom and pop stores in Bharat?
The mom and pop stores don't know the concept and meaning of A or B of strategy. कल माल चाहिए तो वो आज shopping ले जाते हैं. Whereas the corporates are planning at least a month in advance. They know what's coming up ahead. They know what price points to buy so much in advance. They have so much data, which the mom and pops are completely. The mom and pops are running extremely on बस ये चाहिए अभी ले लो. That's all they focus on. They end up buying more expensive jewelry. They're buying from wholesalers and paying larger premiums, and they're taking credit for no reason. So they're making a lot of the mom and pops are making a lot of mistakes where their P&L gets diluted because of that. Why don't they buy from the jeweler directly? Why don't they take a good gold loan at 3.5%? They end up paying the wholesaler about 1-2% of the margin. So it's a big difference. Yeah, they need to strategize their merchandising. They need to be designed first. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's something on budgeting, forecasting, planning, strategizing. Fantastic. There's next question is from Yang, who is asking, what is your view on sustainability goals in your business?
Like I said, goals are. Every business has to have a long-term strategy for sustainability. We don't know. We're not thinking enough as to where we're going to be at a later stage, at 5 years, 1 year down the line, or 2 years down the line. We're not planning our expenses in the right way. We're not budgeting we're not even budgeting anything for that matter. Forget planning. There's no concept of budgeting. There is no concept of, like I said, there's no concept of inventory planning. There's not melting off your old stock. So you need to set your goals in every way. Otherwise, your business will not be able to get it together.
Great. Yes. Wonderful. The next question is from Ayush, who's asking, how do you deal with family dynamics where you want to do a particular thing, having high resistance from the other members of the family?
Been there. That's been really long. I haven't had to deal with that. There is always going to be resistance with some older family members. You need to make sure we're not used to making a report. If you want something, make a proper report as to why you want it, how it's going to be profitable. While you're doing that, it's a self-check for yourself as well. Because you could be wrong. If the family members are coming from so much experience and they're saying no, they don't want to do it, there must be some reasoning. So if you want to do a particular thing, you need to make an entire business study, so to say, an entire business plan. Present it to yourself. If it makes sense to you, then present it back to them. Sometimes that works. Sometimes you still get resistance. At that point, you probably reach out to another family member and try to push it through there. That's what worked for me. So,
in family too. Sorry, I cut you short. I know.
No, that is it. That is it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. The next question is from Brijal, who wants to know if you see stores going virtual and only camera operating in the near future.
That's completely impossible. I don't see that happening. Touch and feel in jewelry. You need to touch, feel, try, connect. Virtual cameras, for me, highly probable impossible. According to me, I could be wrong, but that's
True, true. Probably all of these coexist, the virtual ones and the physical ones. True.
yeah. But going only virtual and only camera, it's
Yeah, correct.
so.
The next is from Tashi, who wants to know why did you pick bangles and bands specifically, and how did you choose such a specific category?
Tashi, I didn't pick up bangles and bands. It was given to us. We've been manufacturing bangles and bands for generations together. We just took what we have and go to the next level. So it's being done in the traditional way. We kind of mechanized it, we structured it, we organized it, and it was just handed to us as legacy. We were lucky to be having that product. But the bangles do make 30% of retail store sales. So that's pretty large number for us.
Wow, wow.